Have you ever heard of a book that no one in the world can read? Not a single person. Imagine a book filled with drawings of plants that don't exist, strange astrological charts, and pages of elegant, flowing script in a language that remains a complete mystery. This isn't the plot of a fantasy novel. It's a real artifact known as the Voynich Manuscript. For over a century, this enigmatic book has baffled the world's best cryptographers, linguists, and historians. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of the world's most unreadable book. The story of the Voynich Manuscript as we know it begins in 1912. A Polish-American antique book dealer named Wilfred Voynich stumbled upon a collection of ancient manuscripts at a Jesuit college near Rome. Tucked away among them was this peculiar little book. It's a modest codex, about the size of a modern paperback. Its vellum pages filled with handwriting and colorful, if somewhat bizarre, illustrations. Voynich was immediately captivated. He knew he had found something extraordinary, but he couldn't have imagined that over 100 years later, it would remain just as puzzling as the day he found it. So, what makes this book so special? Let's start with the text. The entire manuscript, all 240-some pages of it, is written in an unknown script. The letters are graceful and look like they were written by someone who was completely fluent in this language. It's not just random scribbles. Statistical analysis shows that the text follows patterns seen in real languages. Certain characters appear more frequently. Some words are repeated, and the structure seems to follow grammatical rules. It has all the hallmarks of a genuine language, yet it doesn't match any known script, ancient or modern. This has led to endless theories. Is it a lost language, a complex code, or an elaborate, centuries-old hoax? Then there are the illustrations, which are just as strange as the script. The manuscript is roughly divided into sections based on its drawings. The first and largest section is the botanical section. It's like a medieval herbal guide, but with a major twist. Nearly all the plants depicted are unidentifiable. They seem to be composites, with roots from one plant, leaves from another, and flowers from a third. Botanists have spent years trying to match them to real-world species, with very little success. Some look vaguely familiar, but none are a perfect match. Are these plants from an undiscovered part of the world, or are they purely from the author's imagination? This section is why some call it the Garden of the Unreadable Page. Next, we have the astronomical and astrological section. This part contains circular diagrams that look like zodiacs and celestial charts. We see suns, moons, and stars, often with tiny figures inside or around them. But just like the plants, these charts don't quite align with any known astronomical system, Western or Eastern. The symbols are unfamiliar, and the arrangements are peculiar. It's as if someone was describing the heavens from a completely different perspective, or perhaps a different world altogether. Things get even weirder in the balneological section. This is a fancy word for related to bathing. These pages show intricate networks of pipes and tubes connecting pools and vessels, often filled with a green or blue liquid. Small, naked figures, mostly female, are seen bathing, interacting, and moving through these strange plumbing systems. Some of the structures therein look like organs of the body. The meaning behind these scenes is one of the biggest puzzles. Is it a guide to health and wellness, an alchemical treatise, or something else entirely that we can't even begin to comprehend? There's also a cosmological section with more abstract, map-like drawings, and a pharmaceutical section with drawings of plant parts next to what look like apothecary jars. Finally, the manuscript ends with a section of pure text, with small star-like symbols in the margins. No illustrations, just page after page of that impenetrable script, as if the author was finally getting down to the core message. But what is that message? That is the billion-dollar question. Over the years, the world's greatest minds have tried to crack the code. During World War II, top American and British codebreakers, fresh from breaking German and Japanese ciphers, took a shot at the Voynich Manuscript. They all failed. William Friedman, a legendary cryptographer who helped break Japan's Purple Code, spent decades trying to decipher it and ultimately concluded it was likely an artificial language created in the 15th or 16th century, but he couldn't prove it or read it. The theories about its origin and purpose are all over the map. One popular idea is that it was written by the 13th century English philosopher Roger Bacon, who was known for his work in alchemy and coded texts. However, radiocarbon dating of the vellum pages has placed the manuscript's creation somewhere between 1404 and 1438, which is over a century after Bacon died. So that theory is out. Another theory suggests it might be the work of a young Leonardo da Vinci, but again, the timeline doesn't quite fit, and the artistic style is very different from Leonardo's known work. Some have proposed it was created as a hoax by Wilfred Voynich himself, to make a fortune, but letters discovered after his death show him desperately trying to get it deciphered, and the carbon dating proves the book itself is medieval, long predating him. So, who could have created it? The early 15th century, the time the manuscript was made, was a period of great intellectual ferment in Europe, the dawn of the Renaissance. People were rediscovering classical knowledge and exploring new ideas in science, medicine, and philosophy. It's possible the manuscript was created in this environment, perhaps in northern Italy. It could be a cipher designed to protect forbidden knowledge, maybe alchemical secrets or unconventional medical theories that would have gotten the author in trouble with the church. A more recent and intriguing theory, put forth by researcher Nicholas Gibbs, suggested it was a women's health manual, a compilation of existing medical knowledge. He claimed to have deciphered a few words by linking them to standard medieval abbreviations. However, this theory was quickly and thoroughly debunked by many medieval scholars and linguists, who pointed out that his methods were flawed and his decipherments didn't hold up to scrutiny. Then there's the possibility that the entire thing is gibberish, a meaningless, but beautifully executed, hoax from the 15th century. Perhaps it was created by a clever con artist to sell to a wealthy, gullible patron. The Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, a known collector of curiosities and arcane objects, is known to have owned the manuscript in the 16th century and paid a huge sum for it. Maybe he was the original mark, but if it is a hoax, it's the most elaborate and consistent hoax ever created. Why would someone go to the trouble of inventing an entire writing system with complex statistical properties, just for a prank or a single sale? In recent years, artificial intelligence has entered the fray. Researchers have used powerful algorithms and machine learning to analyze the text. Some AI studies have suggested the language is most likely Hebrew, written in a replacement cipher. Others have pointed to patterns similar to Proto-Romance languages, but so far, no AI has been able to produce a coherent translation of even a single sentence. The machine can spot patterns, but it can't understand meaning. So, where does that leave us? The Voynich Manuscript is currently housed at the Voynich Rarebook and Manuscript Library at Yale University, where it is one of their most requested items. It's been fully digitized, so anyone in the world can now scroll through its pages online and try their hand at solving the mystery. It remains a testament to the limits of our knowledge. It's a mirror of the unknown, reflecting back our own desire for answers and our frustration when we can't find them. Is it an encyclopedia from another world? A forgotten language? A secret alchemical text? A guide to imaginary plants? Or the most brilliant and enduring hoax of all time? The truth is, we don't know. And that's what makes the Voynich Manuscript so endlessly fascinating. It's a puzzle box that has remained locked for 600 years. Every theory, every attempted decryption, just seems to add another layer to the mystery. It reminds us that there are still things in this world that defy easy explanation, that guard their secrets jealously, and perhaps, just perhaps, some secrets are meant to be kept. What do you think? Drop your theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think is hiding within these unreadable pages. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. See you next time. Imagine a single building that held the sum of all human knowledge, not just a few dusty scrolls, but hundreds of thousands of them, containing everything from the secrets of the cosmos to the greatest stories ever told. This wasn't a fantasy. This was the great Library of Alexandria, a beacon of intellectual light in the ancient world. For centuries, it was the epicenter of scholarship, discovery, and innovation. But then, it vanished. What happened to this legendary institution? The story isn't just about a fire. It's a long, complex tale of ambition, conflict, and the tragic fragility of knowledge. Today, we are going to sift through the ashes of history to uncover the real story of the rise and fall of the Library of Alexandria. The story begins with a man of immense ambition, Ptolemy Soter, one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals. After Alexander's death, his vast empire fractured, and Ptolemy took control of Egypt. To legitimize his rule and establish his new capital, Alexandria, as the cultural heart of the Hellenistic world, he envisioned something unprecedented. He didn't just want a library. He wanted the library, a place that would collect all the books in the world. The project was monumental. Ships docking in Alexandria's harbor were required to surrender any scrolls they carried. Scribes would then meticulously copy them, returning the duplicates to the owners and keeping the originals for the library. This aggressive acquisition policy, combined with royal funding, quickly swelled the library's collection. It's estimated that at its peak, it housed between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. But the Library of Alexandria was so much more than a warehouse for books. It was part of a larger research institution called the Museum, or Shrine of the Muses. This was the world's first true university. Scholars from all over the known world were invited to live and work there, all expenses paid by the pharaoh. They ate together, debated, and collaborated. Imagine the conversations that took place in those halls. It was here that Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy, using just shadows, a well, and some clever geometry. It was here that Euclid wrote Elements, the foundational textbook for geometry that's still influential today. Hero of Alexandria created the world's first steam engine. The astronomer Aristarchus of Samos proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun, nearly 2,000 years before Copernicus. The library wasn't just preserving knowledge, it was actively creating it. They organized texts, developed grammar, and essentially invented the fields of literary criticism and bibliography. So, if this place was so incredible, where did it all go? This is where the story gets murky, and the popular myth of a single, catastrophic fire takes hold. The most famous suspect is Julius Caesar. In 48 BC, while pursuing his rival Pompey, Caesar found himself besieged in Alexandria. To gain a tactical advantage, he ordered his men to set fire to the enemy's ships in the harbor. According to some ancient accounts, the flame spread from the docks and accidentally consumed a portion of the library, or at least a warehouse containing scrolls destined for it. Now, was this the end? Almost certainly not. While it was likely a significant blow, losing tens of thousands of scrolls, the library as an institution survived. Scholars continued to work there for centuries afterward. The story of Caesar's fire is dramatic, but it's only one chapter in a much longer, slower decline. The library's true downfall wasn't a single event, but a death by 1,000 cuts, a gradual decay spanning centuries. The problems began with political instability. The later Ptolemaic rulers were less interested in funding scholarship and more concerned with their own power struggles. In 145 BC, Ptolemy VIII, in a fit of paranoia, expelled all foreign scholars from Alexandria. This was a massive brain drain, scattering the intellectual community that had made the library thrive. Think of it like a top university suddenly firing its entire faculty. The institution's prestige and output plummeted. Without royal patronage and a vibrant community, the library began to wither. The flow of new scrolls slowed to a trickle, and the meticulous work of copying and preserving old ones likely fell into neglect. The next major blow came during the Roman period. While some Roman emperors were patrons of learning, the empire's frequent civil wars often spilled into Alexandria. The city was a strategic prize, and it suffered greatly during these conflicts. In the 3rd century AD, the Emperor Aurelian, while recapturing the city from the breakaway Palmyrene Empire, destroyed the neighborhood where the main library was located. This conflict likely obliterated whatever remained of the original institution. But even then, knowledge hadn't been completely extinguished. A daughter library still existed at another temple in the city, the Serapeum. This smaller, but still significant, collection carried the torch for another century. The final, definitive end came not with a military fire, but with a fire of religious zeal. By the late 4th century AD, the Roman Empire had become officially Christian. The old pagan temples were viewed as monuments to a false faith. In 391 AD, Theophilus, the Patriarch of Alexandria, a man known for his aggressive stance against paganism, received permission from the emperor to destroy the Serapeum. A Christian mob, incited by Theophilus, descended on the temple and razed it to the ground. Any scrolls that remained within its walls were almost certainly destroyed in the process. This wasn't an accidental fire. It was a deliberate act of cultural and religious eradication. With the destruction of the Serapeum, the last vestige of the great library's legacy in Alexandria was gone. The light that had burned for over 600 years was finally extinguished. So what did we actually lose? It's impossible to know for sure, and that is the greatest tragedy of all. We lost entire fields of knowledge. We know of histories, poems, and scientific treatises that are mentioned in other surviving works, but the originals are gone forever. Imagine losing 90% of all the movies and TV shows ever made. That's the scale of the cultural loss we're talking about. The history of the Berbers, written by their own king, Juba II. The complete works of the poet Sappho, at which we now have only fragments. The astronomical charts of Hipparchus, who created the first comprehensive star catalogue. How much faster would science have progressed if Eratosthenes and Aristarchus's work had been the standard, rather than being lost and rediscovered millennia later? The destruction of the library didn't just rob the past, it impoverished our future. The story of the Library of Alexandria is a powerful and timeless warning. It shows us that knowledge is not permanent. It's fragile. It needs to be protected, curated, and most importantly, shared. Its destruction wasn't the work of one man or one fire. It was a slow decay caused by political infighting, budget cuts, intellectual intolerance, and religious fanaticism. These are dangers that are still with us today. When we see libraries being defunded, scholars being silenced, or history being rewritten for political ends, we are seeing the echoes of Alexandria's fall. The spirit of the library, however, lives on. It lives on in every library, every university, and on the internet, which in many ways is the chaotic, sprawling, and brilliant successor to that ancient dream of collecting all the world's knowledge. Our duty is to be better guardians of that knowledge than the ancients were. We must tend to the flame, ensuring that the ash of ignorance never again clouds the sun of human understanding. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. What lost text from Alexandria would you most want to read? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time. The whisper beneath the river Nile, the river of night, we leave the smoking ruins of the library. We leave the ash drifting on the sea breeze. We turn our backs on the fire and the air, and we seek the solace of the water. We travel south, following the spine of the ancient world. We follow the Nile. It is a river of life, yes. It brings the black silt that feeds the fields. It brings the water that quenches the thirst of the cities. But it is also a river of secrets. The Nile is a timeline of moving water. It has flowed for millions of years, witnessing the rise and fall of pharaohs, the building of pyramids, the prayers of priests. And like any great keeper of history, it knows how to hide things. Stand on the bank of the river at twilight. The sun has dipped below the western dunes. The sky is a bruised purple, fading into the deep indigo of the coming night. The water is dark and glossy, like a sheet of moving obsidian. It is silent on the surface. You can hear the wind rustling the papyrus reeds. You can hear the distant cry of a heron. But beneath the surface, beneath the silence, there is a world of shadows. We are looking for something that was not lost by accident. We are looking for something that was hidden on purpose. We are looking for the book of Thoth, Thoth, the ibis-headed god, the scribe of the heavens, the measurer of time, the inventor of writing. It is said that in the beginning, before the ink was dry on the papyrus of reality, Thoth wrote a single book. He did not write it on paper that burns. He did not write it on stone that crumbles. He wrote it on plates of pure gold, and in this book, he wrote down the two great secrets of the universe. But knowledge is a dangerous thing. It is heavy. It is a burden that mortal shoulders were not built to carry. And so, the book was not placed in a library. It was not placed on an altar. It was taken to the middle of the river near the ancient city of Koptos. It was weighed down. It was cast into the depths. We invite you now to enter the water. Do not be afraid. The current is slow. The water is cool. Let yourself sink. Feel the heat of the desert wash away. Feel the noise of the day dissolve. Down we go. Into the silt. Into the dark. The nesting doll of silence. The light from the surface fades. The blue turns to black. We are floating in the weightless void of the riverbed. The sand here is soft and fine, undisturbed for millennia, and there, half buried in the sediment, sits a chest. It is not a simple wooden box. It is a fortress of silence. The legend tells us of the layers. It is a puzzle of protection. The outer box is made of iron. Cold, hard, unyielding iron. It represents the strength of the earth, the physical barrier that separates us from the magic. Inside the iron box is a box of bronze. Inside the bronze, a box of sycamore wood. Inside the sycamore, box of ivory and ebony. Inside the ivory, a box of silver. And inside the silver is the box of gold, iron, bronze, wood, ivory, silver, gold. Layer by layer, we peel back the skin of the world to find the heart. But the boxes are not unguarded. Look closely at the shadows around the chest. The sand seems to move. The water ripples without a current. They are the guardians, the serpents of the sand, the scorpions of the silt. They are not monsters of flesh and blood. They are spirits of the barrier. They are the doubt in your mind. They are the fear in your heart. They are the instinct that tells you, stop, go back. This is not for you. But tonight, in the safety of the dream, we can pass them. We are ghosts in this story. We leave no wake. We approach the final box. The gold, it glows with a faint, internal luminescence, lighting up the murky water. It does not tarnish. It does not rust. It is eternal. We lift the lid, and there it is, the Book of Thoth. It opens effortlessly in the water. The pages are thin sheets of beaten gold, inscribed with hieroglyphs that seem to writhe and shift like living things. What is written here? The legend says there are only 2 spells. The first spell allows you to understand the language of the world. Imagine reading it. Suddenly, the silence of the river is broken. You do not just hear water. You hear the language of the fish swimming in the dark. You hear the thoughts of the crocodile sleeping on the bank. Your awareness expands upward. You hear the birds in the sky. You hear the wind talking to the palm trees. You hear the tectonic plates shifting deep within the earth. The barrier between you and it dissolves. The isolation of the human mind is shattered. You are flooded with the roar of the living universe. It is beautiful, but it is deafening. There is no quiet left. There is no privacy. There is only the endless chatter of existence. And then, the second spell. The second spell allows you to see the gods face to face. Imagine turning the golden page. The darkness of the river vanishes. The roof of the sky is torn open. You see the sun, not as a ball of fire, but as Ra, sailing his bark across the ocean of millions of years. You see the moon, not as a rock, but as Thoth himself, counting the seconds of your life. You see the gears of the cosmos. You see the weaving of fate. You see the truth, and the truth is heavier than the iron box. It is a weight that crushes the ego. To see the gods is to realize how small you are. To know everything is to lose the ability to hope, because hope requires uncertainty. This is the curse of the prince. In the stories, the prince Neferkaptah found the book. He read the spells. He gained the knowledge, and it destroyed him. He realized that the human soul needs boundaries. We need the horizon. We need the mystery. If we know everything, we have nothing left to dream about. The safety of the veil, the golden pages begin to feel heavy in our hands. The light is too bright. The voices are too loud. We realize why the book was hidden. It was not an act of malice. It was an act of mercy. Thoth, in his wisdom, knew that we are not ready. We are creatures of the seasons. We are creatures of the day and the night. We need the rhythm of not knowing. We need the silence. And so, we do what the prince could not do. We close the book. Clap. The golden cover falls shut. The voices of the animals fade. The vision of the gods dissolves. The darkness of the river returns, wrapping around us like a cool, comfortable blanket. We place the book back into the gold box. We place the gold into the silver into the ivory into the wood into the bronze into the iron. We lock the seal. We watch the silt drift down, covering the chest once more. The scorpions of sand return to their sleep. The serpents coil around the lock. The secret is safe. The burden is laid down. We begin to ascend. We float up, lighter now, burdened by the weight of omniscience. We rise through the dark water toward the faint purple light of the surface. We break the water. Breath. The air is sweet and warm. The night sky is above us, sprinkled with stars. We do not know the names of every star. We do not know what the heron is thinking. We do not see the face of the god in the moon. And it is a relief. It is a gift to simply look at the beauty, without understanding the mechanics. We drift on the surface of the Nile. The current carries us gently toward the sea. The boat of our soul is small, but it is sturdy. Beneath us, deep in the mud, the whisper continues. But it is just a whisper now. It is a low hum that vibrates in the earth, a reminder that there is magic in the world, even if we cannot hold it. We invite you now to drift with us. Feel the buoyancy of the water. You are held up by the river of time. You do not need to know the answers. You do not need to solve the riddles. The veil exists to protect you. The darkness exists to let you rest. Let the knowledge sink. Let the questions fall away like heavy stones. You are safe on the surface. The current is slow. The night is long. Drift away now. Into the flow. Into the silence. Sleep. The ink of the midnight vow, the silence of the Bohemian winter. The wind travels north. It leaves the warm waters of the Nile and the golden sands of Egypt. It crosses the dark forests of Europe, moving toward the cold heart of the continent. We arrive in Bohemia. The year is 1229. It is deep winter. The world is locked in iron and ice. The sky is a flat, heavy sheet of gray slate that presses down on the spires of the Benedictine monastery of Podlace. Here, the silence is not the peaceful silence of the desert. It is the heavy, muffled silence of snow falling on stone. It is a silence that insulates, a silence that traps. We drift through the thick wooden gates. We move down the freezing corridors where the breath of the monks hangs in the air like ghosts. We find a door that is barred from the outside. We enter the cell of Herman the recluse. It is a small room carved from the cold rock. There is no fire here. There is only a single tallow candle, sputtering in a pool of wax, casting long, dancing shadows against the damp walls. In the center of the room sits a man. He is bent over a desk that groans under the weight of his task. He is dressed in the rough, black wool of his order. His fingers are stained with ink. His eyes are red-rimmed and wide, staring at the empty expanse of parchment before him. He has made a vow. To save his life, to redeem a sin that history has forgotten, he has promised the impossible. He has promised to write a book in a single night. But not just any book. He has promised to write the sum of all human knowledge. The entire Bible, the history of the Jews, the encyclopedias of medicine, the spells of the ancients, the calendar of the stars. He has promised to create a monument of ink that would normally take a lifetime to build, and he has until dawn. The candle flickers. The shadows lean in. The atmosphere in the cell is thick with desperation. It is the feeling of a man standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a dark ocean, knowing he must jump. The skin of 100 donkeys. We look at the object on the desk. It is not a book as we know it today. It is a titan. It is the Codex Gigas, the giant book. It is 3 feet tall. It weighs 165 pounds. To create the pages of this single volume, the skins of 160 donkeys were scraped, cured, and stretched. A whole herd of animals was sacrificed to create this canvas for the mind. The vellum is thick and creamy. It smells of lime and animal fat. It is a landscape waiting to be populated. Hermann picks up his quill. It is a goose feather, sharpened to a needle point. He dips it into the inkwell. The ink is made of oak galls and iron salts, a black liquid that bites into the skin of the page, turning into stone as it dries. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound is loud in the small cell. It is the rhythm of anxiety. He begins to write. He writes the first letter of Genesis. He creates a capital I that stretches down the page, wrapped in vines and colors. But the night is moving. The sand in the hourglass is falling. He writes faster. His hand flies across the vellum. But the task is too great. To copy the Old Testament alone would take years. To add the works of Josephus, the medical treatises of Hippocrates, the history of Bohemia, it is a task for a god, not a man. Midnight approaches. The witching hour. The candle burns lower. The wax drips onto the wood. The cold creeps into his bones, stiffening his knuckles. He stops. He looks at the stack of blank pages remaining. They look like a mountain of snow that he must climb barefoot. He realizes he cannot do it. He realizes that human strength is not enough. The limit of the flesh has been reached. And so, in the crushing silence of the cell, Hermann the recluse makes a choice. He does not pray to the light. The light demands patience. The light demands years. He whispers to the dark. He speaks a prayer to the shadow that stands in the corner of the room. He invites the helper to enter the cell. "Help me," he whispers. "And the ink is yours." The candle flame turns blue. The air grows instantly colder, freezing the breath in his lungs. The shadows detach themselves from the wall. They pull around the desk. They wrap around his hand. He does not feel fear. He feels a strange, cold comfort. He feels the surrender. The portrait of the lonely prince. The legend tells us that the devil appeared. But we do not see a monster with horns and fire. We do not see a beast. We see a presence. A force of absolute focus. A force of obsession. The shadow places its hand over the hand of the monk. And suddenly, the quill begins to move. It moves with a speed that is not human. It does not scratch. It flows. The ink pours onto the page like a black river. The letters form perfect, uniform rows. The handwriting does not change. Graphologists who have studied the Codex say that the writing is identical from the first page to the last. There is no sign of fatigue. There is no sign of a trembling hand. It is the writing of a machine. It is the writing of a trance. Hermann watches his own hand moving. He is a passenger in his own body. He watches the Bible flash by. He watches the histories unfurl. He watches the medical cures for fever and epilepsy fill the margins. He is channeling the archive of the world. And then, as the first gray light of dawn begins to touch the window, the shadow asks for its payment. It does not ask for his soul. It asks for a portrait. It wants to be seen. On page 290, the quill stops its furious writing. The monk dips the pen into green ink, then red, then yellow. He draws a figure. It takes up the entire page. It is the devil. He is depicted alone, standing between two yellow towers. He has green skin and a red, forked tongue. He wears a loincloth of ermine, the fabric of kings. But look closely at his face. He does not look angry. He does not look triumphant. He looks lonely. He looks trapped. He is standing in an empty space, devoid of followers, devoid of fire. He is enclosed within the margins of the page, just as Hermann is enclosed within the walls of the cell. It is a self-portrait of the shadow. The Prince of Darkness is just another recluse, locked in his own eternal monastery of pride. The monk finishes the drawing. The cock crows in the village below. The spell breaks. The shadow recedes into the corners of the room. The warmth returns to the monk's hand. Hermann drops the quill. It is done. The book lies open on the desk. It is a behemoth. It contains the world. The ink is still wet, glistening in the pale morning light. The door to the cell opens. The abbot enters, expecting to find a failure, expecting to find a dead man. Instead, he finds the Codex Gigas. He tries to lift it, but he cannot. It takes two monks to heave the volume from the desk. They look at Hermann with fear in their eyes. They look at the perfect script. They look at the green figure on page 290. They know that no human hand did this alone, but Herman says nothing. He sits in the corner, wrapped in his black wool. He has vanished into history. He has become a ghost in his own life. The book remains. It travels through the centuries. It survives fires. It survives wars. It is stolen by armies and kept in the cabinets of emperors. It sits today in the National Library of Sweden, a silent, massive object that radiates a strange energy. We invite you now to step into the cell. Feel the cold stone floor. Smell the tallow and the ink. Look at the massive book. It is a monument to the power of the midnight vow. It is a testament to what happens when we surrender completely to the task. We all have a book we need to write. We all have a mountain we need to climb. Sometimes, the day is not enough. Sometimes, we need the night. Sometimes, we need to make friends with the shadow to get the work done. The quill is at rest. The ink is dry. The dawn has come. You have fulfilled your vow. You have finished the page. You can rest now. The book is closed. The silence returns. Drift away now. Into the ink. Into the leather. Sleep. The prophecy consumed by fire, the vendor of destiny, the wind shifts. We leave the cold stone cell of the monk and the frozen ink of the midnight vow. We travel south, across the Alps, down the spine of the Italian peninsula. We move backward in time, before the emperors, before the marble colosseums, to a time when Rome was a kingdom of brick and clay. We enter the throne room of Tarquin the Proud. The room is dim. It smells of cedar wood and expensive dyes. The air is thick with the scent of power, that heavy, metallic perfume that surrounds the seats of kings. In the center of the room stands a brazier. It is a tripod of bronze, holding a bed of glowing red coals. The heat ripples the air, distorting the shadows that dance on the walls. The heavy wooden doors creak open. A figure enters. She is not a queen. She is not a diplomat. She is an old woman. Her skin is the texture of a dried riverbed. Her hair is like the gray moss that clings to the oak trees. Her eyes are milky and deep, as if she has stared too long into the sun, or too long into the dark. She is the Sibyl, the oracle of Cuma. She has walked a long way. She has come from the volcanic caves near Naples, the place where the earth vents its sulfurous breath, the place where the veil between the worlds is thin. She carries a bundle in her arms. It is wrapped in rough linen. She holds it with a strange mixture of reverence and burden. She approaches the king. She does not bow. Destiny does not bow to power. She places the bundle on a table. She unfolds the cloth. Inside are 9 scrolls. They are ancient. The papyrus is brittle and yellowed, smelling of the underground. They are tied with cords of faded purple. The king leans forward. He sees only old paper. He sees the dust of the cave. What is this? He asks. The Sibyl's voice is a whisper, like dry leaves skittering across stone. These are the books of the fate of Rome, she says. They contain the future. They contain the warnings. They contain the map of the years to come. She names her price. It is a staggering sum. A mountain of gold. A king's ransom. Tarquin laughs. He looks at the frail woman. He looks at the crumbling scrolls. He sees a beggar trying to cheat a king. No, he says. The price is too high. He expects her to haggle. He expects her to lower the cost. That is the way of the marketplace. That is the way of men. But the Sibyl is not a merchant. She is a messenger. She does not argue. She does not plead. She turns to the brazier. The smoke of the lost Yersti fire is waiting. The coals are awake. The Sibyl picks up the first 3 scrolls. The king watches, amused. He thinks it is a bluff. She holds them over the heat. The papyrus begins to curl. The edges turn brown. And then, she drops them. Hiss. Crackle. The dry paper catches instantly. The flames leap up, hungry and bright. The ancient ink that recorded the voice of Apollo, ink that outlined the rise and fall of empires, ink that held the cure for plagues not yet born turns to gas. The scrolls blacken. They twist in the agony of the fire. They turn to ash. The smoke rises. It is a thick, white smoke. It smells of burnt history. It smells of ozone and regret. It drifts up to the ceiling beams and vanishes. 3 books are gone. The Sibyl turns back to the king. Her face is impassive. I have 6 left, she says. She names the price again. It is the same price. The exact same mountain of gold. But now, for only 6 books. The king stops laughing. He is confused. The logic of the transaction has broken. You offer me less for the same cost? He asks. You are mad. He refuses again. He waves his hand, dismissing the old woman and her charred offering. She turns back to the brazier. She picks up 3 more scrolls. Now, the silence in the room changes. It shifts from amusement to horror. The courtiers step forward. The king grips the arms of his throne. She drops them into the fire. Whoosh! The flames roar. They consume the middle chapters of the future. What was in those 3? Perhaps the secret of the aqueducts? Perhaps the warning of the barbarian gates? Perhaps the name of the traitor who would open them? We will never know. The words turn to carbon. The wisdom turns to heat. The ash piles up in the bottom of the bronze bowl. A gray mound of lost time. The smoke fills the room. It stings the eyes of the king. It chokes the breath of the guards. It is the atmosphere of irreversible loss. The Sibyl turns one last time. She holds the final 3 scrolls. They look small now. They look fragile. I have 3 left, she says. She names the price again. The same price. The price of 9. The king looks at the fire. He looks at the ash. He looks at the 3 surviving rolls of parchment. He feels a cold knot of terror in his stomach. He realizes too late the nature of the bargain. He is not buying paper. He is buying the mercy of the gods. And the gods do not haggle. I will pay, he whispers. I will pay. The fragment of the whole. The gold is weighed. The transaction is made. The Sibyl takes the coin and vanishes into the night, returning to her cave of sulfur and silence. She is never seen again. The king is left with the remnant. He holds the 3 scrolls. They are warm from the heat of the room. They smell of the smoke that consumed their sisters. He opens one. The Greek text is dense and poetic. It speaks of rituals. It speaks of portents. It speaks of lightning strikes and the flight of birds. He realizes that he holds only a fragment of the map. The beginning is gone. The middle is gone. He has only the end. These 3 books, the Sibylline books, become the most sacred object in Rome. They are not placed in a library for scholars to read. They are locked away in a stone chest beneath the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, on the Capitoline Hill. They are kept in the dark. A special college of priests is formed to guard them. They are the duumviri. Only they can touch the parchment, and the books are silent. They are never opened in times of peace. They are never read for curiosity. They are only opened when the sky turns black, when the earth shakes, when the plague kills the children, when the enemy is at the gate. Only when Rome is desperate do they descend into the vault and unroll the survivors. They read the cryptic verses. Searching for a way to appease the anger of the heavens, we explore the tragedy of the vanishing future. We walk through the smoke of that throne room in our minds. We look at the pile of ash in the brazier. We wonder, what disasters could have been averted? If the king had been humble, if he had paid the price at the beginning, would Rome have fallen? Would the Library of Alexandria have survived? Would the Dark Ages have been lit by the lamp of prophecy? We breathe in the smoke. It is a reminder of the fragility of wisdom. We treat the future as if it is guaranteed. We treat knowledge as if it is abundant. But sometimes, the oracle only knocks once. Sometimes, the opportunity to know is consumed by the fire of our own arrogance. The smoke rises from the brazier. It drifts out of the window of the palace. It mixes with the night air of the ancient city. It carries the unread prophecies up to the stars. The gods who wrote them look down. They see the smoke. They accept the return of their gift. The ink dissolves into the ether. The words become wind, and the king is left on his throne, holding his 3 scrolls, peering into the shadows, trying to read a story that has lost its most important chapters. He and we must walk into the future blind. We invite you now to stand in the quiet of the temple, smell the faint scent of incense and old parchment, see the stone chest where the secrets are kept. Realize that some mysteries are gone forever. They have turned to ash, but there is peace in the not knowing. There is peace in the silence of the gap. We do not need to know the future to sleep through the night. The fire has died down. The coals are gray, the smoke has cleared. You are safe in the present, the only time that truly exists. Drift away now, into the smoke, into the silence. Sleep. The map etched in verdigris, the scroll of green fire, the wind travels east. We leave the smoke of Rome and the ash of the burned prophecies. We cross the blue Mediterranean, soaring over the dry, salty hills of Judea. We arrive at the lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea. The air here is heavy and thick with salt. The silence is absolute. It is a landscape of stark, blinding white and deep, scorched ochre. We climb the limestone cliffs of Qumran. We are looking for a cave. It is known as Cave 3. In 1952, archaeologists pushed aside the rocks and the dust of 2,000 years to enter this dark womb of the earth. They found jars. They found fragments of parchment, eaten by worms and time. But in the back of the cave, resting on a stone shelf, they found something else. It was not leather. It was not papyrus. It was metal. 2 rolls of pure copper. They were green with age. The oxidation of centuries had turned the metal into a brittle, beautiful verdigris. They looked like fossilized logs, or the shed skin of a copper serpent. They could not be unrolled. The metal was too fragile. To open them would be to destroy them, so they cut them. With delicate saws, they sliced the copper into strips, and as the metal fell away, the secret was revealed. The other scrolls of the Dead Sea spoke of angels and demons. They spoke of the war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. They spoke of the rules of purity and the coming of the Messiah. But this scroll spoke of gold. It was not a scripture. It was a list. It was an inventory. It was a treasure map etched in metal. Imagine the scribe who wrote it. He did not use a quill and ink. He used a chisel and a hammer. The sound must have echoed in the cave, a rhythmic metallic heartbeat in the silence of the desert. He was hammering the letters into the copper because he knew that parchment would rot. He knew that ink would fade. He needed a medium that would last until the end of time. He was hiding the wealth of a nation. 64 silences we trace the lines etched into the green metal. The script is Hebrew, but it is cryptic. It is written in a code of Greek letters and symbols, a puzzle meant only for the initiated. It lists 64 locations, 64 hiding places scattered across the desert and the city of Jerusalem. In the fortress which is in the Vale of Acre, 40 cubits under the steps entering to the east, a money chest and its contents, of a weight of 17 talents. In the cave of the old washer's chamber, on the 3rd terrace, 65 bars of gold. In the cistern which is under the wall, on the eastern side, in the rock facing west, 6 jars of silver. The amounts are staggering. Scholars have done the math. The scroll describes over 4,000 talents of silver and gold. In modern terms, it is billions of dollars. It is a hoard so vast it feels mythological. Where did it come from? Was it the treasury of the Second Temple, hurried out of Jerusalem before the Roman legions burned the city to the ground? Was it the secret wealth of the Essenes, the ascetic monks who lived in these caves? Or was it something older, the lost gold of King Solomon? We walk through the locations in our mind. We stand in the cave of the column. We look for the double entry. We search beneath the Canal of Solomon. But the landmarks have changed. The pillars have fallen. The canals are dry. The steps have crumbled into dust. The map leads to a geography that no longer exists, and yet, the gold has never been found. Treasure hunters have dug. Archaeologists have sifted the sand. But the earth keeps its secrets. Perhaps the gold was recovered centuries ago, dug up by Roman soldiers or Bedouin shepherds who left no record. Or perhaps it is still there. Imagine the bars of gold, sleeping in the darkness of a sealed cistern. Imagine the silver jars, cool and heavy, resting beneath the floor of a ruined fortress. They are waiting. They are protected by the verdigris of the earth. They are protected by the silence of the desert. We explore the nature of this metal memory. Why copper? Copper is the metal of Venus. It is the metal of conduction. It carries energy. Maybe the scribe knew that the message had to conduct through time. He etched the map into a material that would outlast the empire that was coming to destroy them. He was burying the future. He was leaving a legacy for the righteous teacher who would one day return to claim it, but the teacher never came. The scroll sat in Cave 3 for 2,000 years, slowly turning green, slowly becoming part of the rock. The text became a ghost. The letters became scars on the metal skin. The door that is not there, the sun beats down on the Dead Sea. The water is still and blue, a mirror that reflects the burning sky. We stand on the cliff edge, looking out over the barren wilderness. The copper scroll is a paradox. It is the most detailed treasure map in history, yet it leads nowhere. It gives us the weight, the depth, and the direction, but it denies us the prize. Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the treasure was never meant to be physical gold. In the mystical traditions, gold is a symbol of spiritual light. Silver is a symbol of the purified soul. Maybe the 64 locations are not places in the desert, but centers in the body. Maybe the steps entering to the east are the steps of the mind entering meditation. Maybe the scribe was not hiding money. Maybe he was hiding the path to enlightenment, disguising it as greed so that only the worthy would look past the glimmer of the metal. But the physical weight of the scroll suggests otherwise. It feels real. It feels urgent. The chiseled letters are rough. They were made in haste. They speak of a desperate need to save something precious from the fire. And so, the mystery remains. We can hear the echo of the hammer in the cave. We can smell the dust of the excavation. We can see the green metal unrolling in the mind's eye. But the door remains locked. The treasure of the copper scroll is not the gold. It is the longing. It is the feeling of knowing that something vast and beautiful is hidden just beneath your feet, just out of reach. It is the feeling of the buried. We invite you now to roll up the scroll. Hear the metal groan softly as it curls back into its cylinder. The verdigris flakes off, a green dust settling on your hands. Place it back on the stone shelf. Let the darkness of the cave swallow it again. You do not need the gold. You do not need the silver talents. You possess the treasure of the night. The silence of the desert is yours. The peace of the ancient sea is yours. The map leads you here, to this moment, to this rest. The world is full of hidden things. Let them stay hidden. Let the earth hold its secrets. You are safe in the mystery. Drift away now. Into the copper, into the green. Sleep. The smoke of the painted Jaguar, the pyre in the green cathedral, the wind shifts once more. We leave the dry, salt-crusted cliffs of the Dead Sea. We leave the hidden copper map and the silence of the desert. We cross the great ocean, riding the trade winds west. We descend into the heavy, humid embrace of the tropics. We arrive in the Yucatan. The jungle here is a living thing. It is a green ocean that breathes. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth, crushed orchids, and the decay of 1,000 years of falling leaves. The canopy blocks out the sun, creating a permanent twilight on the forest floor, where the roots of the ceiba tree twist like giant serpents. We travel back in time to a specific day, July 12, 1562. We stand in the plaza of the town of Man. The air is still. The birds have stopped singing. The howler monkeys in the distance are silent, as if the jungle itself is holding its breath. In the center of the plaza, a fire is burning. It is not a cooking fire. It is not a ritual fire to honor the rain god Chak. It is a pyre of destruction. A man in the robes of a bishop stands watching. Diego de Landa. He believes he is burning the works of the devil, but he is wrong. He is burning the memory of a world. We do not look at the man. We look at the fire. Piled high in the flames are the books. The Maya called them hun. They were not bound like the heavy leather tomes of Europe. They were delicate, beautiful things. They were made from the inner bark of the wild fig tree, the amati. The bark was soaked, boiled, and beaten with stone pestles until it became a long, continuous sheet of paper. It was folded like a fan, like a screen that could stretch for meters. It was coated with a fine, white lime plaster, a skin of stucco as smooth as porcelain. And on this white skin, the scribes had painted the universe. Watch the flames lick the edges of the pages. The bark paper curls. The white lime cracks. The colors brilliant reds, deep blacks, and the famous, indestructible Maya blue begin to blister. The smoke that rises is not gray. It is thick and black. It carries the smell of burning fig wood and scorched plaster. But look closer at the smoke. As it twists into the humid air, it takes shapes. It forms the face of the jaguar. It forms the feathers of the quetzal. It forms the spiral of the snail. The spirits of the books are being released. We are witnessing the greatest tragedy of the Americas. In a single afternoon, the history of a civilization is turning to ash. The dynasties of the Snake Kings, the cures for the jungle fevers, the maps of the star roads, the songs of the creation, all of it, drifting away on the wind. It is a silence that screams, the mathematics of the soul. We step closer to the fire, immune to the heat in our dream state. We look at what is being lost. These were not just books of words. They were books of time. The Maya were the timekeepers of the ancient world. While Europe was stumbling through the Dark Ages, the astronomers of the Yucatan were calculating the movements of the heavens with a precision that terrifies the modern mind. They looked at Venus, the Wasp star, and they charted its path for hundreds of years. They knew exactly when it would appear as the morning star, and when it would sink into the underworld as the evening star. They knew the cycles of the moon down to the decimal point. They predicted eclipses that would not happen for 1,000 years. They wrote it all down. On these folding screens, they painted the gears of the cosmos. They created the long count, a calendar that did not measure hours or days, but eons. They measured time in bactons, vast cycles of 144,000 days. They saw time not as a straight line, but as a circle, a great wheel turning within a wheel. What has happened before will happen again. The destruction of the world, the rebirth of the world, the planting of the maize, the harvest of the soul. All of this mathematics, all of this poetry, is burning. We see a page curl up in the heat. On it, we see a painting of the rain god, chalk, pouring water from a jar. He has a long, curling nose and eyes that swirl. He is beautiful, and then, he is gone. Consumed by the orange tongue of the fire, we see a page with the table of the eclipses, columns of dots and bars, the Maya numbers, a single dot for 1, a bar for 5, a shell for 0. They understood 0. They understood the void. And now, the void is claiming them. Bishop Landa writes in his own journal, "We found a large number of books in these characters, and, as they contained nothing in which were not to be seen as superstition and lies of the devil, we burned them all, which they regretted to an amazing degree, and which caused them much affliction." Much affliction. It is the understatement of the century. It was the lobotomy of a culture. Imagine the priests watching from the shadows of the jungle. Imagine the keepers of the knowledge, seeing their life's work, and the work of their ancestors, turning to smoke. They did not weep for the paper. They wept for the connection. These books were the bridge between the earth and the sky. They were the instructions for how to keep the sun moving. They were the contract with the gods. And now, the contract was burning. The flight of the 4 birds, but fire cannot eat everything. Some things are destined to survive. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Out of the thousands of books that existed, 4 escaped. Just 4. Like birds flying from a burning tree, they were carried away. Perhaps a priest hid them under his cloak. Perhaps a soldier took them as a curiosity. Perhaps the wind itself carried them to safety. They crossed the ocean. They traveled to Europe. They ended up in libraries in Dresden, in Madrid, in Paris. We focus on the survivor, the Dresden Codex. We visualize it unfolding in the dark of a museum vault. It is beautiful. It is 74 pages long, folded like a concertina. When it is fully open, it is nearly 12 feet of painted bark. The colors are still vibrant. The Maya blue has not faded. It glows with an internal light, a chemical miracle of indigo and clay that defies the centuries. We lean over the glass case. We look at the glyphs. They are intricate, square blocks, filled with faces and hands and animals. They are a combination of pictures and sounds. Here, on page 47, is the path of Venus. Here, on page 24, is the prophecy of the flood. The book is a time machine. It whispers to us. It tells us that the Maya are not gone. You can burn the paper, but you cannot burn the math. You can burn the map, but you cannot burn the stars. The cycles of Venus continue, indifferent to the fire at man. The Milky Way still arches over the ruins of Palenque, the white road of the ancestors. The memory is resilient. It went underground. It hid in the weaving of the textiles. It hid in the stories told by the grandmother at the hearth. It hid in the prayers spoken to the corn in the fields. And now, centuries later, we are learning to read the glyphs again. We are piecing together the shattered mirror. We realize that the superstition was actually science. We realize that the devil was actually the deep, profound observation of nature. The smoke of the painted Jaguar has cleared. The air is fresh again. We invite you now to stand in the jungle of your mind. The fire is out. The plaza is quiet. The bishop is dust. But the Jaguar is still watching from the tree line. The eyes of the forest are open. Look up. See the stars through the gap in the canopy. They are the same stars the scribes painted on the bark. They are the same stars that watched the rise and fall of the Snake Kings. You are part of the cycle. You are a dot in the great long count of the universe. Feel the rhythm of the time. It is slow. It is circular. It is safe. You do not need the book to know the truth. The truth is written in the sky. The screen folds shut. The codex closes. The colors fade into the velvet dark. The memory is safe. The survivor is resting. Drift away now. Into the green. Into the glyph. Sleep. The green stone of the alchemist, the chamber of glass and shadow. The wind shifts again. We leave the smoke of the Maya jungle. We leave the tragedy of the burning books and the humidity of the tropics. We travel east. Across the Atlantic. Across the pillars of Hercules. We drift into the cobbled streets of a quiet, sleeping city, perhaps Prague, perhaps Alexandria, perhaps a place that exists only on the map of the mind. We climb a winding stone staircase in a high, lonely tower. We stop at a heavy wooden door, bound in iron. We push it open. We enter the laboratory. The air here is cool and still. It smells of dried herbs, hyssop, and sage. It smells of sulfur, sharp and stinging. It smells of old parchment and the dust of grinding stones. The room is filled with the apparatus of the great work. Glass retorts spiral upward like crystal snakes. Alembics sit over cold furnaces, their bellies stained with the residues of 1,000 experiments. There are jars filled with powders, red lion, white eagle, green dragon. But the fires are out tonight. The glass is cold. We are not here to mix chemicals. We are here to look at the source. In the center of the room, resting on a table of dark oak, lies a single object. It is not a book. It is not a scroll. It is a stone. But it is not a rough rock from the quarry. It is a slab of pure, translucent crystal. It is green. It is the green of the deepest ocean. It is the green of the first leaf of spring. It is the green of the heart. This is the tabula smaragdina, the emerald tablet. It glows with a faint, internal luminescence, casting a verdant light onto the wooden table. It is said that this stone was not cut by human hands. Whispers tell us it fell from the forehead of a falling angel, or that it was found in the hands of a mummy in a tomb beneath the Great Pyramid. It is the legacy of Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, the father of all magic, the master of the elements. Reach out with your mind. Touch the surface of the emerald. It is smooth as ice. It vibrates against your skin with a low, humming frequency. Etched into the surface, in a script that predates the alphabets of men, are the secrets of the universe. The letters seem to float inside the gem. They shift. They refract the light. This is the foundation. This is the root of the tree. Before there was chemistry, before there was physics, there was this stone. The mirror of the cosmos. We lean closer to the glowing tablet. We read the first line. That which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing, as above, so below. It is a phrase you have heard 1,000 times. But here, in the silence of the laboratory, the meaning opens up like a flower. We explore the reflection. Imagine standing on the shore of a dark ocean at night. The sky above is a canopy of diamonds. The water below is a mirror of black glass. Every star in the sky has a twin in the water. The pattern of the heavens is repeated in the depths. This is the law of the emerald tablet. The universe is a mirror. Look at the spiral of a galaxy, turning slowly in the void of space. Now, like the spiral of a nautilus shell on the beach. They are the same, like the branching of a lightning bolt. Now, like the branching of the veins in your hand. They are the same. The macrocosm is reflected in the microcosm. The alchemist understood this. He knew that he did not need to build a rocket to visit the stars. He only needed to look inside himself. The solar system is inside you. The sun is your heart. The moon is your mind. The planets are your organs. To understand the universe, you do not need to look out. You need to look in. We trace the glowing letters on the stone. They speak of the sun as the father, the moon as the mother, the wind as the carrier, and the earth as the nurse. It is a family portrait of the cosmos. We explore the pursuit of the philosopher's stone. For centuries, men have misunderstood this quest. They thought it was about greed. They thought it was about turning lead into gold coins to fill their coffers. They built furnaces. They burned mercury. They went mad breathing the fumes of arsenic, trying to get rich, but they were reading the tablet with the eyes of the body, not the eyes of the soul. The true alchemist knows the secret. The lead is not the metal. The lead is the human spirit in its raw state, heavy, gray, dull, poisonous. It is the weight of sadness. It is the density of fear. And the gold is not the metal of commerce. The gold is the spirit transmuted. It is the soul purified. It is the state of enlightenment where the human being becomes incorruptible, radiant, and solar. The great work, the magnum opus, was never about chemistry. It was about psychology. It was about spirit. It was the solitary pursuit of the alchemist working through the night, distilling his own darkness, burning away the dross of his ego, trying to find the diamond in the ash. The laboratory is the body, the furnace is the will, and the emerald tablet is the instruction manual for the soul's ascent. The dissolution of the light in the room begins to change. The green glow of the tablet grows brighter. It saturates the air. The glass retorts on the shelves begin to chime, resonating with the frequency of the stone. Ping, ping, ping. The green light touches the dust on the floor, and the dust turns to gold. It touches the shadows in the corner, and the shadows turn to light. We realize the final secret. The emerald tablet is not a solid object. It is a state of mind. It is a prism. It takes the white light of the divine and breaks it down into the colors of our reality. We watch as the stone begins to dissolve. The edges of the crystal soften. The etched letters detach themselves from the surface and float into the air. They are symbols of fire and water, of salt and mercury. They drift around you like fireflies. The phrase "as above, so below" echoes in the silence. But now, it changes. As within, so without. The world you see outside is just a reflection of the world inside you. If you change the inside, the outside must follow. This is the true transmutation. You are the alchemist. You have always been the alchemist. Every breath you take is a distillation. Every dream you dream is a sublimation. The stone is gone now. It has dissolved completely into a soft, verdant mist that fills the room. The laboratory walls fade away. The tower dissolves. The city below vanishes. There is only the light. It is a light that is both liquid and solid. It is the prima materia, the first matter, the stuff from which all things are made. You are floating in it. You feel the heaviness of the lead leaving your bones. You feel the gray weight of the day falling away like a rusted armor. You are becoming lighter. You are becoming gold. Not the gold that is cold and hard, but the gold that is warm and alive. The gold of the morning sun. The transformation is complete. The great work for tonight is done. The vessel is sealed. The mixture is perfect. We invite you now to rest in this golden state. You do not need to strive anymore. You do not need to search for the formula. The formula is in your breath. Inhale. The separation. Exhale. The union. The alchemist sleeps. The fires are banked. The universe is balanced. Above is the same as below. Sleep is the same as waking. Drift away now. Into the emerald. Into the gold. Sleep. The locked gate of the Vatican, the marble labyrinth, the wind shifts. We leave the alchemist's tower and the golden light of transmutation. We leave the scent of sulfur and the green glow of the emerald. We travel south, across the Alps, crossing the spine of Italy. We descend into the eternal city, Rome, It is a city of noise, of bells ringing from 100 campaniles, of footsteps echoing on cobblestones, of the Tiber rushing beneath ancient bridges. But we are not here for the city of the living. We are here for the city of the written. We walk toward the great dome of St. Peter's, rising like a mountain of stone against the violet night sky. We pass the Swiss guards, standing still as statues in the shadows. We move deeper, past the public halls, past the museums where the marble gods stand in frozen silence. We descend into the cool, subterranean heart of the Vatican. Here, the air changes. It loses the humidity of the river. It loses the warmth of the sun. It becomes dry, conditioned, and still. It smells of old stone, beeswax, and the dust of centuries. We stand before a heavy door. It is made of iron and oak, studded with bronze nails that have turned green with age. It is a gate that separates the present moment from the deep past. Above the door, carved in stone, are the words, Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, the Vatican Secret Archives. But in the Old Latin, secretum did not mean hidden in the way we think of it today. It meant private. It meant personal. This is the private memory of the Church. It is the attic of the Western world. We reach out. We turn the heavy iron handle. Click, clack. The mechanism groans a sound like a heavy stone rolling away from a tomb. The door swings open on silent hinges. We step inside, and the world falls away. We are standing at the entrance of a labyrinth. Before us lies a corridor that seems to stretch into infinity. It is a tunnel of knowledge, lined with steel and wood. 53 miles of shelving. Think of it. 53 miles of history, compressed into the dark. If you were to walk the length of these shelves, it would take you days. Millions of documents, tens of millions of pages. They are bundled in red ribbon. They are sealed with red wax. They are stacked in boxes of acid-free gray board. They are breathing. In the silence of this underground bunker, you can feel the exhalation of the paper. You can feel the weight of the ink. It is a heavy atmosphere. It presses against the ears. It is the weight of 1,000 years of confessions, 1,000 years of decrees, 1,000 years of secrets kept in the dark. The seal of the Templar. We begin to walk down the aisle. Our footsteps make no sound on the polished floor. We are ghosts in the machine of history. We pass shelves that hold the letters of kings and queens. We pass the pleas of the condemned and the pardons of the saints. Here, in this box, is a letter from Michelangelo. The ink is brown and faded. He is writing to the Pope, complaining that he has not been paid for the work on the Sistine Chapel. We can see the frustration in his handwriting, the slash of the pen. The hand that carved the David trembled here with anger. Here, the scroll, is the desperate plea of Mary, Queen of Scots, written weeks before her execution, begging for her life, begging for a burial in France. The paper is stained. Are they tears, or just the damp of a dungeon in England? The archive remembers. It holds the grief that the world has forgotten. We move deeper. We enter the section of the forbidden. The air grows colder here. The shadows seem to cling to the shelves. We find a long, narrow drawer. Inside rests a parchment that was lost for 700 years. The Chinon parchment. It is the record of the trial of the Knights Templar. We visualize the scene. The year 1308. The dungeons of Chinon Castle. The warrior monks, broken by torture, dragged before the cardinals. For centuries, history believed they were guilty of spitting on the cross, of worshipping a cat-headed idol, of heresy. But this parchment tells a different story. It tells of a pope who absolved them. It tells of a secret pardon that was never made public. Why was it hidden? Why was the truth locked in this drawer while the knights burned at the stake in Paris? We run our hands over the wax seals. They are red, like drops of dried blood. They hang from the parchment on silk cords. They are the seals of silence. We realize that this place is not just a library. It is a prison for dangerous truths. We explore the idea of dangerous knowledge. There are books here that challenge the fabric of faith. There are transcripts of trials that show the fallibility of the holy. There are maps of lands that were not supposed to exist. Whispers tell us of the grimoires, books of magic confiscated from the sorcerers of the Middle Ages. Books that claim to summon angels and bind demons. Are they here? Are they sitting on a shelf next to the tax records of a monastery? We imagine the Grand Grimoire, the red dragon, waiting in the dark. Does the ink on those pages glow? Does the paper feel warm to the touch? The Vatican does not destroy these things. It keeps them. It neutralizes them by surrounding them with bureaucracy. It drowns the magic in a sea of paper. It guards the mind of the common man from ideas that are too heavy to carry. We feel the tension of the vault. It is a tension between light and dark. The Church claims to be the bearer of the light, but here, in the archive, it is the keeper of the shadow, and the shadow is vast. The candle in the outer chamber, we walk to the end of the corridor. The shelving stops. We are facing a blank stone wall, but we know that the archive goes deeper. Whispers tell us of the vaults, the floors beneath the floors, the places where even the cardinals do not go. The chronovisor, the device said to look into time, the true third secret of Fatima, the genealogy of the bloodline. We can feel the magnetic pull of the deep earth, but we cannot go further. The way is barred, the gate is locked, and perhaps that is for the best. We realize the nature of the veil. We think we want to know everything. We think we want the doors flung open. We think we want the archives digitized and put on the internet for all to see. But do we? Mystery is a nutrient. The human soul feeds on the unknown. If every secret were laid bare, the world would become flat. It would become bright, fluorescent, and sterile. We need the dark corners. We need the locked doors. We need to believe that there is magic hidden in the basement. The archive protects the mystery. It keeps the past alive by keeping it hidden. We turn back. We walk the 53 miles in the blink of an eye, retracing our steps through the labyrinth of history. We pass the Templars. We pass the queens. We pass the artists. We return to the heavy iron door. We step out of the cool, dry air of the vault and back into the warmer atmosphere of the antechamber. We take the heavy iron key. We place it in the lock. Click, clack. The tumblers fall into place. The bolt slides home. The history is sealed. The breath of the documents is contained once more. We are left in the outer chamber. A single candle burns here, casting a soft, golden light on the stone walls. The flame dances. It reminds us that we live in the light, but we are surrounded by the dark, and the dark is not empty. The dark is full. It is full of stories waiting to be told. It is full of voices waiting to be heard. But tonight, they will sleep. The red ribbons will hold the parchment tight. The wax seals will not break. The dust will settle on the shelves. You do not need to carry the weight of the secrets. The gate is locked. The guardians are at their post. You are free to rest. Leave the labyrinth. Leave the stone. Drift away now, into the silence, into the vault. Sleep. The jewel lost to the abyss, the library of the gray Atlantic. The wind shifts one final time. We leave the warm, candle-lit chambers of the Vatican. We leave the smell of wax seals and dry parchment. We leave the solidity of the earth behind entirely. We travel north. We travel west. We drift out over the heaving, restless expanse of the North Atlantic. Here, the sky is the color of iron. The water is the color of slate. There is no land in sight, only the endless, rolling horizon where the ocean meets the mist. We are entering the largest library in the world. It is not a library of shelves and catalogs. It is a library of the deep. It is a repository of silence, where the ocean floor is scattered with the things that humanity thought it could keep forever. We drift back in time to the spring of 1912. We are looking for a specific object, a single volume. It is perhaps the most beautiful book ever created by human hands. It is known as the Great Omar. It is a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the Persian poet of wine and longing. But this was not a book meant to be read. It was a book meant to be worshipped. Visualize the binding. It took 2 years of obsessive labor to create. The binders, Sungorsky and Sutcliffe, worked until their fingers bled, stitching the leather, setting the stones. The cover was not merely leather. It was a canvas of opulence. On the front, 3 peacocks stood with their tails fanned out in a display of vanity. Their feathers were made of inlay, hundreds of pieces of colored leather, fitted together like a mosaic, but it was the jewels that made it heavy. 1,050 precious stones were set into the binding. Rubies for the eyes of the birds, turquoises for the tips of the feathers, emeralds for the leaves of the vines, topazes, garnets, amethysts. It was a treasure chest disguised as a book. It glittered with the tears of the earth. It was a monument to the fleeting nature of life, encrusted with the stones of eternity. And in April of 1912, this masterpiece was packed into a plain oak crate. It was wrapped in protective paper. It was marked for transport. It was carried onto the dock at Southampton. It was loaded into the hold of the largest moving object the world had ever seen, the RMS Titanic. The spiral into the dark, we watched the ship leave the harbor. It is a city of steel, steaming toward the horizon. But we do not follow the passengers. We do not walk the promenade. We do not hear the music in the first-class lounge. We stay with the book. We stay in the darkness of the cargo hold, deep in the belly of the ship. The great Omar sits in its crate, vibrating gently with the hum of the engines. The rubies in the darkness are asleep. The peacocks are waiting. And then, the silence breaks. The shudder, the stop, the confusion. But we do not focus on the panic. We focus on the physics of the descent. The water enters. It is icy cold. It is salt water, heavy and green. It floods the hold. It swirls around the oak crate. The ship tilts. The gravity shifts. And then, the great separation happens. The ship breaks the surface tension and begins its long journey down. We follow the crate. It slips free from the wreckage. It is buoyant for a moment, bobbing in the freezing chaotic foam. But the water seeps into the wood. The weight of the 1,000 jewels pulls it down. It begins to sink. Down, down, down. The descent is not violent. It is slow. It is a spiral. We pass through the layers of the ocean. We leave the surface zone, where the moonlight still penetrates the water, casting blue rays into the deep. We enter the twilight zone. The blue fades to a deep, bruising purple. The light is gone. There is only the pressure. The oak crate groans. The wood compresses. The air is squeezed out in a stream of silver bubbles that rush upward, trying to return to the sky. But the book continues to fall. It enters the midnight zone. The abyss. Here, the water is pitch black. The temperature is near freezing. The pressure is crushing tons of weight pressing in from every side. It is a silent, vertical journey. The book is returning to the earth. Think of the irony. The rubies were mined from the deep rock of Burma. The emeralds were dug from the mountains of Colombia. The gold was sifted from the rivers. Man took these things, polished them, cut them, and lifted them up into the light. We tried to own them, but the earth always claims its own. The gravity of the planet is pulling the jewels back. The great Omar is not being lost. It is being returned. The poetry of the silt thud. A soft, muffled impact. A cloud of fine, gray silt rises up in slow motion, hanging in the water like smoke. The crate settles on the ocean floor. 2.5 miles down. The silence here is absolute. It is a silence that has lasted for millions of years. We sit in the dark, watching the treasure. Over time, the oak wood rots. The iron nails rust away. The crate dissolves, and the book is revealed. The pressure has not destroyed the jewels. Diamonds are born in pressure. Rubies are born in fire. They are indifferent to the weight of the water. They gleam in the absolute dark. If you were to shine a light down here, you would see the peacocks staring back at you with their red eyes. You would see the turquoise feathers glowing against the mud. But there is no light. There are only the blind fish, the ghostly crabs, the currents that sweep the sediment across the plains of the Atlantic. The leather binding begins to soften. The glue dissolves. The pages loosen. The verses of Omar Khayyam are released into the water. The moving finger writes, and, having writ, moves on. Nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. The words float in the current. The poetry of wine, of roses, of the fleeting sweetness of life. It is now resting in a place where there is no wine, no rose, no life. It is the ultimate poetic justice. The book about the impermanence of things has become the ultimate symbol of impermanence. The bird of time has flown, and it has landed here. We explore the feeling of this grave of beauty. There is something hauntingly peaceful about it. The book is safe. It will never be sold at auction again. It will never be touched by greedy hands. It will never be locked in a dusty museum case. It belongs to the abyss now. It is the jewel of the deep. The leather dissolves into the salt. The paper turns to pulp and drifts away like snow. And finally, only the stones remain. 1,050 jewels, scattered in the gray silt. A constellation of rubies and emeralds resting on the bottom of the world. They are waiting, not for a diver, not for a rescue. They are simply existing. They have returned to the silence from which they came. We invite you now to let go of your own treasures. The things you hold tight. The things you fear losing. Imagine them drifting down into the cool, dark water. Watch them spiral down. Watch them settle softly into the sand. Let the ocean hold them. The pressure of the deep is a hug. The darkness is a blanket. You do not need to carry the heavy crate anymore. Let it sink. The surface is far above you. The storm cannot reach you here. There is only the quiet. There is only the drift. You are the jewel in the abyss. Safe. Hidden. Silent. Drift away now. Into the pressure. Into the dark. Sleep. The paper that remembers nothing. The orphan on the doorstep. The wind settles. The ocean of the north fades into memory. We leave the crushing pressure of the abyss and the glittering jewels of the lost book. We travel inland. We cross the dark forests of Europe, moving east, following the slow, gray currents of the Danube River. We arrive in a quiet corner of the world. Hungary. It is the early 19th century. The year is 1838. We enter the library of a nobleman, Count Gust v. Bathy. It is a room of dark wood and heavy velvet curtains. The air smells of pipe tobacco and old leather. Thousands of books line the shelves. Histories of empires, genealogies of kings, Bibles in Latin and Greek. But we are not here for the famous books. We are here for the stranger. Tucked away in the collection, unnoticed for years, is a small object. It is not a grand tome. It is not bound in gold or encrusted with rubies like the great Omar. It is humble. It is small. No larger than a prayer book you might slip into a pocket before a long journey. This is the Rohonc Codex. It has no history. There is no record of who wrote it. There is no record of where it came from. It simply appeared on the shelf, like an orphan left on a doorstep in the middle of the night. Reach out and touch it. The cover is worn leather, cracked and scarred, but it is the paper inside that haunts us. Open the book. The pages are not the fine, creamy vellum of the wealthy. They are rough. They are gray. They are textured with the pulp of cheap rags. Hold a page up to the light. Faintly, woven into the mesh of the paper, is a watermark. It is the shape of an anchor, enclosed in a circle, surmounted by a star. Scholars have searched the archives of every paper mill in Venice, in Germany, in the Ottoman Empire. They have looked for the mill that used this mark, but they have found nothing. The paper was made by a mill that has vanished. The anchor belongs to a ship that never sailed. The book begins its life with a negation. It is written on paper that remembers nothing of its origin. It is a tabula rasa, a blank slate upon which a mystery has been scrawled. The river of the unknown tongue turned the page. We are confronted with the script. It is not a hesitant scrawl. It is not a code written by a spy, full of stops and starts. It is a river. The ink flows across the rough gray paper with a terrifying confidence. The hand that held the pen did not pause to think. It did not look up a cipher. It was writing in its mother tongue. The letters are small and cramped. They crowd the page, marching in dense rows from right to left. Or perhaps left to right. We do not even know the direction of the breath. Look at the symbols. There are not 26, like our alphabet. There are not 30. There are hundreds. 792 distinct characters have been counted. This is too many for an alphabet. It is too few for a pictographic language like Chinese. It sits in the uncanny valley of linguistics. It looks like old Hungarian runes, but it is not. It looks like Hindi, but it is not. It looks like early Greek, but it is not. It is a melody played on an instrument that no longer exists. We trace the lines. We see the repetition. We see the rhythm. A native speaker sat at a table, perhaps by candlelight, perhaps in a monastery that burned down, and poured their soul onto this paper. They wrote prayers. They wrote histories. They wrote the mundane and the holy, and they wrote it with speed. You can feel the urgency in the ink. You can feel the pressure of the quill. It is the speed of someone who knows they are the last one left. Imagine the loneliness of this book. To write is to communicate. To write is to reach out a hand across time and say, I was here, I thought this, I believe this. But if no one can read it, the hand reaches out into the void. The Rohonc Codex is a shout in an empty room. It is a monologue spoken to an audience of ghosts. The confusion of the altar, we turn to the illustrations. They are not the beautiful, colorful paintings of the Maya. They are crude. They are simple, drawn with black ink in a naive, almost childlike style, but in their simplicity, there is a deep, unsettling mystery. We see scenes of battle, men with swords, castles on hills. We see scenes of prayer, priests standing at altars. But look at the symbols of the faith. In one drawing, a church is marked with a cross. In the next, a temple is marked with a sun. In another, a crescent moon, and often, they are mixed together. A priest holds a cross, but stands beneath a sun. A swastika, the ancient symbol of the turning world, rotates in the sky above a Christian mass. What religion is this? Is it a confused memory of Christianity? Is it a secret sect that blended the Bible with the Quran and the pagan rites of the steppes? Or is it a record of a civilization that history completely forgot? There is a theory, a whisper among the dust, that this book is the only survivor of the Vlach culture, or perhaps the Sumers living in Transylvania, a pocket of humanity that lived, loved, prayed, and died, leaving no stone monuments, no gold coins, no ruins, leaving only this one rough, gray book. Think of how easily a world can vanish. If you burn the library, the history is gone. If you kill the speakers, the language is gone. All it takes is one generation of silence, and then, all that remains is a riddle. Of course, there are the skeptics. They say it is a hoax. They say a mad antiquarian in the 1800s invented a fake language just to fool the scholars. But why? Why invent a system so complex? Why write 448 pages of gibberish? Why create a grammar that holds up to statistical analysis, only to say nothing? It feels like too much work for a lie. It feels like the truth, but a truth we are too deaf to hear. The book sits on the wooden table in the library of the mind. It is humble. It is gray. It smells of the unknown mill. It refuses to yield. Computers have attacked it. Linguists have attacked it. But the Rohonc Codex keeps it secret. It is a monument to the fragility of knowledge. We think that our civilization is permanent. We think our words are etched in stone. But we are writing on paper, and paper is fragile. Maybe one day, thousands of years from now, someone will find a hard drive from our time. They will look at the zeros and ones. They will see the structure. They will feel the intelligence. But they will not know the password. They will not know what we loved. We invite you now to sit with the orphan. Do not try to read it. Do not try to solve it. Just witness it. Respect the silence of the last survivor. There is a peace in the unreadable. There is a sacredness in the forgotten. The symbols dance on the page, safe from our understanding. The anchor in the watermark holds the ship steady in the harbor of the void. The story is not for us. It was written for the sky. It was written for the silence. Close the cover. Feel the rough leather. Let the dust settle back onto the shelf. The mystery is safe. Drift away now. Into the gray. Into the cipher. Sleep. The library of the ether, the dissolution of the stone. We have traveled a great distance together. We have walked the marble halls of Rome and stood in the ash of Alexandria. We have touched the cold iron of the Vatican and the rough gray paper of the Orphan Codex. We have watched the copper turn green and the leather dissolve into the sea. We have searched for memory in stone, in metal, in ink, and in skin. But all these things are heavy. All these things are bound by the laws of the earth. They crumble, they rot, they burn. Tonight, for the final journey, we leave the physical world behind entirely. We unlatch the heavy door of the material. We step out of the room of walls and floors. We ascend. We rise above the library of the alchemist, above the towers of the city, above the highest peaks of the Himalayas, where the snow never melts. We rise into the indigo silence of the upper atmosphere. The air becomes thin. The gravity of the planet loosens its grip. The noise of history fades into a low, distant hum. We are entering the fifth element, The ancients called it the ether. The Sanskrit sages called it Akasha. It is the subtle atmosphere that fills the void of space. It is the canvas upon which the universe is painted. And here, suspended in the violet twilight of the cosmos, lies the final repository, the library of the ether. There are no doors to guard this place, for it has no walls. There is no roof to shelter it, for it is as vast as the sky itself. It is a library made of light. Visualize the architecture of energy. Great pillars of luminescence rise up from the deep purple void, stretching endlessly upward. They are not made of marble, but of vibration. They hum with the frequency that you feel in your bones rather than hear with your ears. There are no shelves here. There are no stacks of dusty books. There is no smell of decaying paper or drying ink. There is only the pure, crystalline clarity of memory. This is the Hall of Records. It is the place where nothing is ever lost. The fabric of the great memory we drift through the corridors of light. It is said that the universe is not empty space. It is a plenum of fullness. It is a fabric that is sensitive to the slightest touch. Every event that has ever happened in the history of time has left an imprint on this fabric. Think of a stone thrown into a still pond. The stone sinks, but the ripples expand outward, touching every part of the shore. Here, in the ether, the ripples never stop. Every thought you have ever had is a wave. Every word you have ever spoken is a frequency. Every action, every dream, every heartbreak, and every joy is etched into the atmosphere of this place. We drift past the records of the ancients. Here, vibrating in a chord of gold light, is the true history of Atlantis. It was not lost when the ocean swallowed the city. The stone towers sank, yes, but the memory of the towers is preserved here, perfect and intact. Here is the true text of the Voynich Manuscript, unspooled and legible, singing its meaning in the language of plants and stars. Here are the burned scrolls of Alexandria. The fire took the papyrus, but it could not touch the ideas. The ideas rose with the smoke and imprinted themselves on the ether. We realize the profound comfort of this truth. Nothing is ever truly lost. We spend so much of our lives afraid of forgetting. We take photographs. We write diaries. We carve our names into trees. We are terrified that when we leave this world, we will vanish without a trace. But the Akashic records whisper to us, you are recorded. You are written into the foundation of the cosmos. We explore the nature of these books. To read a record here, you do not use your eyes. You use your intuition. You tune your frequency to the subject, like tuning a radio to a station in the dark, and suddenly, you are there. You do not just read about the battle. You feel the fear of the soldier and the hope of the dawn. You do not just read about the feast. You taste the wine and smell the roasting meat. It is a library of total empathy. It is the collective consciousness of the human race, swirling together in a vast, luminous river. We see the connections. We see the invisible threads that tie us all together. The thread that connects the monk in the cell to the alchemist in the tower. The thread that connects the scribe in the jungle to the sailor on the ocean. We are all authors in the same book. We are all verses in the same poem. The ink of breath, the light is warm here. It is not the harsh light of the sun, but the soft, bioluminescent glow of the soul. We come to a quiet space in the center of the archive. This space is reserved for you. You are writing a page in this library right now. Lie still in your bed. Listen to the rhythm of your breathing. Inhale, exhale. With every breath, you are sending a signal into the ether. With every heartbeat, you are stamping the fabric of time with your existence. You do not need to do anything grand to be remembered. You do not need to build a pyramid. You do not need to conquer an empire. The quietest moments are recorded with the same fidelity as the loudest explosions. The kindness you showed a stranger, the tear you shed in private, the dream you held in your heart when you were a child. It is all here. It is all safe. We explore the spiritual comfort of the archive. It means that justice is built into the universe. It means that truth cannot be hidden. You can burn the evidence on earth. You can hide the body. You can silence the witness. But you cannot erase the vibration in the ether. The truth stands here, naked and eternal, glowing with its own inner light. And for the weary traveler, this is a place of rest. You do not need to carry the burden of your memory anymore. You do not need to worry about holding on to the past. You can let it go. Release your memories into the light. Watch them drift away from you, turning into golden sparks that join the great stream. They are being filed away. They are being cherished. The universe is the great librarian. It watches over you with infinite patience. It values every second of your life. The final entry: the tour is over. The journey is complete. We have traveled from the mud of the riverbank to the light of the stars. We have gone from the heaviest stone to the lightest thought. We stand at the edge of the archive. The walls of light are fading. The vibration is slowing down, turning into a gentle lullaby. It is time to make your final entry for the day. Your waking life is closing. The chapter of this day is finished. You are holding the pen of your consciousness. Let it drop. Let the book of your mind close. Softly, you are drifting now. You are floating in the weightless embrace of the Akashic. You are not separate from the library. You are part of it. You are a sentence written in starlight. The physical world is far below you, wrapped in shadow and sleep. But you are here, in the place where the light never goes out. The great memory holds you. The silence protects you. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to solve. There is nothing to fear. You are infinite. Your dreams tonight will be the ink. Your sleep will be the page. Drift away now, into the ether, into the light. Sleep.